Okay, so we've got the cockpit pretty much done. There's two bits to add from the HMS Ark Royal. Thank you to Solrash. I think his name is Solrak. I'm sorry if I'm not pronouncing your name right, but oops, there we go. Literally these two little kit parts here get added inside the cockpit at the back, the cockpit roof. So I'll add them, install that, put that on. I've just added a little blast mark in the back, and all I've got to do now is, after I've installed the cockpit, is to add the decals. And the decals, or decals as we call them in the UK, are really bad. Well, I could probably get away with them, but they're just like, they're meant to be really bright yellow, like the deep contrast yellow on the model, and I can't use these. I mean, maybe I'll get away with some of the ones with the writing on the caution ones, but yeah, they're no good. So John Stewart is kindly printing me out another set. I've still got this little doodad to add on the front of the cockpit nose on there, and a few other parts to add underneath, but we're pretty much done. One other thing, these hoses on here, they're from the Tyrrell, or I don't know, actually, I don't know what they're from, but there's only one in the kit, so the one underneath I had to use, there it is, I had to use jeweler's wire, which is this sort of bendable, sort of, it's almost like, it feels like sort of you can bend it like lead almost, but it's like a soft metal wire that John Stewart put me onto. So thank you, John, for that. So he's been very helpful along this build. But yeah, as I say, we're getting there. Okay, so we've got the guns and everything in place. That wasn't the easiest thing to do, but it seems to be kind of the same as the one on screen there. Look at all that. I mean, all that crud and stuff over it. I believe there's talcum powder. So I think Lorne Peterson said in one of his interviews that to dull down the sheen, if there was any sort of reflection on the camera, they would just dab talcum powder on it. So there could be talcum powder, but it seems to be the same colour as the paint. So it could just be, you know, just grit in the paint, or over the years has deteriorated somewhat. But I decided not to add that. Anyway, so there on the bottom, I've just got to add some wires and I can install it. Okay, so I've just popped in some LEDs in the front there, like the original. I've added a few bits of rust just around there, just literally with the rust colour. That's the enamel, so I can sort of manipulate it with a damp brush, wet with enamel thinners, white spirit. And now I've added the speckling that can be seen over the top. That looks very harsh on the camera, but you know, when you zoom away, you can't see it. What else? I've added all the chipping on the front of the cockpit cone and on the other side. It was very rough, like the original. I'm giving it a quick mist with grime. So yeah, I'm just waiting for the decals now. Come on, postman. So the decals have arrived. The postman has just been while I was doing my last bit of spraying. And here they are. Nice. Oh yes, proper yellow. Thank you, John. So that's the difference in yellow. So, and they're slightly smaller, which that probably means they're slightly more accurate. Anyway, that's awesome news. Thank you, John. I can crack on with these now. Okay, so I'm going out and cutting through these decals. Got my pot of water and my cotton bud, and literally just plonking these in situ on the model. There's some really tiny ones. I mean, that is minute, that little guy just down there. So yeah, it's a bit tedious, but I've got the ones on the, let me just turn that around. I've got the ones on the top here and the canopy up there. They've got that nice silvering going on, which is not what most modelers want, because you know, people don't want silvering on their decals, but when you look at the ILM ones, they're peeling off, they're shiny. All about keeping it accurate, right? And then there's that one that's been chipped away. There you go. So I'm just plugging away with these decals now. So looking at the ref on the underside of the cone, the backwards caution sign, the backwards caution sign is peeling off at the top, and it's been cut at an angle. So I've even had to cut the carrier film at that angle to try and get it to be accurate to the original. So it's just sitting up there like that. Just these little things you have to do to keep it right. Okay, so I'm calling it done. Still need to do the base, so the aluminium pole bit will be primered and then sprayed satin black and put on a 10mm thick acrylic base. But for all intents and purposes, it's finished. It's painted. All the decals have been put on. Thank you, John Stewart, for those. Thank you, Guy and Lee. Obviously, they've been helping me out with parts that I need for it, and for Sergio for supplying me the kit. I hope you can see it. It's tricky. It's a big beast, so it's tricky to fit in camera. But yeah, it's been a blast. It's proved difficult at times, but yeah, I've really enjoyed it. That cockpit still should turn around. Yep. There we go. So that's working as it should with the magnets. And the decals I've got to be very careful with because they're still wet actually. But and I was never planning on having LEDs in the front, but they were just so easy to sort of put through and just to light up for, you know, pictures and stuff. I thought I'd leave them. It's a bit of a mess underneath with the wires now. I still need to smarten that up. But yeah, I'm really happy with it. It had me on the ropes, but managed to get it so at least it represents the B-wing that Bill George built for Return of the Jedi. But I really appreciate everyone liking and commenting and showing the love on YouTube and Facebook. It really does make all the difference. You know, when you think you're sort of you're against a brick wall sometimes with a project, and then you just receive some nice feedback, or someone says, why don't you try doing this, or, you know, how do you do that? It just helps. So there we go. Studio Scale B-Wing from Return of the Jedi by Nyson Models.